Hi, my name is Sahira, and welcome to my online belly dance studio. Welcome! Today we're going to look at a quintessential belly dance movement, the unweighted hip lift and hip drop. So let's go ahead and look at the muscle isolation you're going to need to create this movement. This is all done with the oblique, so your oblique will get nice and strong doing this movement. We are going to do it today, as I mentioned, unweighted. So let's go ahead and take all of our weight and put it on our left foot. And bring the right foot here to the toe. Just put it in a position where you can use it for balance, but you don't really want to put a lot of weight into it. Be sure that your standing leg is slightly bent and your pelvis is in neutral belly dance posture. We're going to use this external oblique here to squeeze the hip in and release to center. Squeeze and release to center. You always want to release this just down to neutral as opposed to releasing it through to the other side. Just release it down to neutral. So you're squeezing it up, releasing it down. Squeeze it up, release it down. I have almost no weight on that right foot, just enough to keep me balanced. If you want to test to make sure that you're not using your foot to push the hip up, you can take that foot off the floor and test your balance at the same time and squeeze the hip up and release, up and release. You should feel that oblique contracting to create this movement. Let's try it on the other side. So weight is on your right foot now. Be sure the right knee is still slightly soft. Left foot is there for balance only. I'm squeezing, releasing, squeezing, releasing. Contracting that left oblique to lift the hip up and in towards my core. Contract, release, contract, release. I'm not using the floor to make the movement, and we can test that once again by taking that foot into passe and bringing the hip up and release, testing your balance, and up and down. Nice, last one. Excellent. That's all there really is to the hip lift and drop. The difference between the lift and drop is where your accent is. If I'm dancing to music with a tempo here, and I am lifting, 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 making the lift the accent and the drop the recovery, it's a lift. If I'm dancing to that same music and I'm putting the drop on the accent and using the lift as the recovery, it's a drop. So it's pretty much the same movement, but it has a different accent. One thing that you can do to make a nice crispy drop and give it a little bit of a hip jingle, if you've got your hip scarf on with coins on it, you can think of contracting your glute as you get to the lowest part of your drop. If I'm contracting my left glute as I drop my right hip, that kind of creates a hard stop to the drop and allows your hips to shimmy just a little bit on the end of that. It's just a nice tight squeeze on the left glute to create a hard stop that creates kind of a harder movement on the drop if you would like to do that. So now we're going to go ahead and drill the lift and the drop, same contraction, with or without the glute, to music. Let's go ahead and start with the arms here in this variation. We're going to start with a lift. We're going lift, 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 lift. Make sure that there's space here underneath the arm, space for the hip. You're framing your movement. Left arm is nice and strong, reaching towards the ceiling. Be sure your left knee is bent and you're not bouncing up and down. You don't want to bounce up and down here. You want to keep the head nice and steady. Let's change this to a drop. We're going drop, drop. You can squeeze that left glute if you like to create a harder movement. Drop, 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 drop. Good. Let's switch to the other side. Weight's on the right. We're going lift, 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 lift. Squeeze, squeeze. Nice. Make sure there's space here between the hand and the hip. Arm is reaching up with the right. And that was your hip lift and hip drop. Thanks for joining me.